Well, thanks everyone. It's so nice to see all of you in your home offices working away. I'm really enjoying this webinar opportunity. We hadn't explored online education, to be honest, before COVID-19 came into our lives. So it's been an excellent push in regards to transforming and being a little bit more innovative on how we're delivering some of our programs. So far it's been working really well, and it's been a great opportunity to have folks come together, be able to see each other, see real faces behind the computer. So we're really liking that. I really just wanted to say thanks for joining us today. We of course have our webinar on social distance marketing, and that is being put on by our presenter for the afternoon, who is Bob Weiss from B2B Sales Connections. He has been a very long time member, I think 15 years or more even.
About 12 or 13.
12 or 13,
yeah.
And a great supporter of the Ajax Pickering Board of Trade. So we knew when we reached out to him, he would absolutely be willing to put something together for us. So that's really all I wanted to mention. And just to keep your eye on our event calendar, I think you all know where that is, for all of the education we're putting together and some of our upcoming events with the mayors of both Ajax Pickering as well as Regional Chair John Henry. So all of that's on our calendar, and you know where to find that on our website. And with that, I will hand it over to you, Bob. Thanks so much for today.
Thank you very much, Nicole, Andrew, for inviting me to come in and do this with the Board of Trade. It's always fun. I was saying to Andrew as we were first coming on that 3 or 4 of these every single day with clients. There's just so much happening out there. And about 5 years ago, my business partner and I started to use the online platform a lot more. So when I do one-on-one coaching, I don't meet my clients directly. I have clients from all around the world, and it is strictly using Skype or a Zoom platform. And a lot of people are like, oh, you can't do that. You've got to meet face-to-face. You've got to go in and see the customer. You've got to be in their facility. And it's not required. And this is just kind of going to prove it. And so anybody who's been doing this for a while, they're very comfortable with the technology. And those of you who are just getting new to the technology, if you're on these things, try doing some yourself. Skype is free. There is a 40-minute Zoom platform that's free. Go on and just do some practice things beforehand, because it doesn't take a lot to move your content from face-to-face over to an online platform. We're going to go through a number of topics today. Just a couple things to let you know. Andrea is going to monitor the chat. So as we're going along, if there's anything specific that kind of stands out, you'd like me to spend a little bit more time in it, and I'll take a few pauses there and check in with Andrea. We'll answer some questions off the chat. And then as we get to the end, we'll open up all the microphones and become a free-for-all. And that kind of gets crazy on this online platform, because the more people on, the more people putting their hands up and asking for things. So just to kind of give you a bit of a background, my specialty is on helping companies generate leads, reduce the sales cycle so they can close more sales. And I provide training, online, web-based, as well as face-to-face training for customers. All of the coaching I do is through mastermind groups or through one-on-one coaching, and that is all done on a virtual platform. So what are we going to talk about today? I'm going to talk about some ideas to help you keep going. 3 areas that you do need to focus on. Talk a little bit about drip marketing, and that is just dripping your marketing materials out on a regular basis. And then implementing a messaging sequence, as well as what should be in those messages, to get you feeling comfortable for this. More than happy at the end to send you some notes. I don't send out the slides because they're not really completely focused on what the notes will be. So if you want to connect with me at the end, I'll make sure you've got my email address, and I'll send you some follow-up notes that you can go with. And so on that, let's get ourselves started. I see that Jennifer from Search Engine People is on the line. It's rather interesting. I was at their location on Thursday, the 12th of March, and I was doing a seminar for them in the morning, and at noon hour, it was a whole different thing, and that's when the whole team went home and started working from home. A lot of other companies that I worked with, on the 13th, they made the announcement, and then that following week, I think everybody kind of, if they didn't volunteer to work from home, they got pushed back and started working from home. But kind of the reality is now, your customers are in a panic. And as I've said to so many people, if you're going to watch the news, pick one newscast a day and watch that newscast. If you're watching the same thing 20 times in Facebook feeds and LinkedIn feeds, you're going to get so much on you and your family that the panic just kind of sets in. It's the same story 55 times. It's not changing that much. So, find out you're going to pay attention to and stick with that. Because if you're in a panic and your customers are in a panic, that's not helpful. Where if you can be the calm, the voice of reason when you're talking to customers and say, look, let's look at where we can go to help you out. If you've got staff, they're probably terrified right now. Are they going to be employed in 2 months? There's a lot of things that's happening. Look at the good news that came out just a few hours ago. Air Canada is bringing back, I think it's 16,000 employees. One of the government mandates has come into place. That's a company that's saying, we're going to do it. Let's get it back. So, things are going to change in the next couple of months, but let's be calm and let's work our way through it. Now, so what we're talking about today, though, is a lot of people I've talked to in the last week and a half to 2 weeks, they're afraid of doing anything in the way of sales and marketing because they're afraid that they may be screwing up. They may offend somebody. You don't want to be seen as insensitive. You don't want to be seen as opportunistic. So what is it you should be doing to make people feel comfortable, as well as continuing to move your business forward? So I just want to give you a couple of little pieces of information. I started my business in 2008. And if you guys remember 2008, we kind of hit a little recession then. And people were saying to me, why would you start a business at the height of the recession? There is no bad time or good time to get into that market. It's what you choose to do with it once you're in there. And so I was a real big watcher of all the information that's going on, and I continue to. So a couple things that come back from it are companies that continue to do their marketing throughout a recession or an economic decline or a crisis are the ones that bounce back faster than anybody else. So if you go dark, if you decide, I am not going to do anything, I'm not going to go any marketing at all, and you do that for the next 2 to 3 months, the time it's going to take you to get back to where you had been before it happened is going to be a long time. So keep it going. But it's what the content's going to be for the next while is what's important. You're not going to be out there push, push, push. It's not hard sell. It's getting the right information. So thinking about that, number one, you've got to keep doing it. And it doesn't matter what industry you're in, we got to think about it. We'll talk about ways to do that as we go along. So here's a couple of other things they're really important. At any given time, about 3% of your market is actively looking for your solution. So think about it. If you sell insurance at any given time, probably 3% of people are looking to buy insurance. If you're selling cars, if you're selling real estate, that's just kind of a number. And that proves out in a lot of different industries time after time after time. The problem with that 3% is trying to find those 3% is really, really difficult. About 7% of your market will show an interest in what you're doing. So are you doing things to make sure that the 7% who are like, that sounds interesting, that you're nurturing them, you're sending them information? But here's the big one. 50% of your market might be interested in the future. So we've already got 70% of our market out there that could be a target for us in the 1 week to the next year. But are we reaching out to that 57% that could be a prospect, as opposed to just trying to cherry pick that 3%, which is the most expensive to go after, the most time consuming to go after, and the hardest to go after? So this is where things like keyword searches and search engine optimization and website updates, these are all things we can be working on now to make sure that we're staying in front of the people who are asking the questions. The final number is 40%. 40% don't give a damn. Think about it right now. How many people are Apple users and how many people are Android users? Am I going to convince an Apple user to move over to Android, or am I going to convince an Android user to move over to Apple? There's a slim possibility one way or the other, but why would I spend any money trying to go after Apple users if I didn't have Apple products? And it's the same thing in our industry. So if I'm in real estate, am I marketing to the West End of Toronto or Kingston or Ottawa, or am I marketing to where my target market is and to my target personnel? So that's what I'm always thinking about when anything that our company is doing or I'm doing with my clients is how do we reach out to that 60% of the market that is always interested. Even when this is happening now, there are still people who are sitting down and researching. And what we're actually finding in our industry is we've got a huge influx of people because they're now all sitting down with the time on their hands and they're researching things. What could I do now? So if you do search engine optimization, I'm sure there's a lot of people sitting down there thinking, what do I need to do to my website now? What do I need to learn about keywords? So that's a prime time to push that information out. So if you're a hunter, if you're into a product that's an essential product, you sell hand sanitizer, you sell masks, you sell anything into these companies that are people are actively looking for your services, now's a great time to be pushing out advertising. Let them know you're there. On the other hand, most of us, if we're non-essential, we've got to be farming. We've got to be planting those seeds right now so that when things start to come back, they're ready for us. The housing market is going to go up. We know that. We know that financial planners are going to get busy again. We know that all of these things that we do in our industries are going to come back. It's just a matter of, are we putting the seeds out there so they know we're the one to come back to? And I'm going to talk about a couple of ideas. There's content sharing. If you know who your ideal customer is, you can use emails, LinkedIn, online events, phones, just picking up the phone and talking to people. We can use content sharing, blogs, articles, videos, reports. Those are all different methods that we can use right now to push that information out. Right. So, Andrew, a quick one. Anybody in the chat asked any questions so far, or are we two thumbs up and just keep on going?
Keep going.
Okay, good. So, a real challenge. Good. A real challenge is it's not about the features and benefits of what you're doing. It's what your buyer needs to know. So if I use my own case as an example right now, we are pushing out, because we do sales training, we're pushing out all sorts of information to owners of businesses about what their sales reps should be doing right now, which is basically what we're doing with you guys today. And that's what we're pushing out. How do we get this? What do they need to know? What should they be thinking about? And that in turn is actually creating information back into us. So we've been very busy in the last 2 weeks because people are coming back and saying, okay, we need this. We want to talk to you about it. So let's talk about it. So we've been doing webinars for clients, one-on-one training for clients with specific salespeople. So it's actually our funnel is putting the information out there that when somebody's sitting at their desk at night or sitting at their desk in the afternoon and typing in, what do I need to know about lead generation? What do I need to know about closing skills? How do I handle objections? They're finding our material and they're coming to us. So we're planting those seeds as the farmer so that they're looking for us. And when it comes the time they think about it, they're coming forward. So how do we do that? And I got a little worksheet here, and I'll send this out afterwards if you'd like it. I want you to think about what is the problem your client is having today. So in this crisis, what is their problem in your market? So what are they addressing? So Nicole was chatting earlier about switching over from live events to online events. So what's the problem the Board of Trade is having right now? They're looking at how do we provide value for our clients, but doing it online. So why did we get talking a week ago? Because I provide online stuff all the time. So here's a quick way to do that. And Andrew, how many more have you got scheduled over the next few weeks?
A lot.
Yeah.
There's lots of information and lots of topics we're trying to cover.
Right. And you're doing a virtual networking event?
We did
Was
that
that
last night.
Last
Yes,
night, yeah, I
first
missed
time.
that.
First time. Great opportunity.
How many attended?
I think we had almost 50 registered for the event.
There you go.
Yeah.
So, you know, what was the problem? What's the number one problem the Board of Trade had right now? How do we keep in front of our clients? What's the impact to the Board of Trade if they don't solve that problem? Well, all of a sudden now clients of the Board of Trade are going, well, you know, do I renew my membership because everything's shut down? So the outcome was they put on an online networking event. They had 50 people sign up for it. It puts the Board of Trade back in front of everybody. Now, think about that from your company's perspective. Can you identify a problem that you address? Think about the impact that it's having on them right now, and then how can you help them solve that problem? And talk about the outcome. Is that making sense? Give me some head nods there as I rotate through. I see head nods going on there. Edith, you can't have a glass of wine in the middle of the day. Is it 3 o'clock yet? Right on. Good, good. Thanks, guys. That's what I want to see. All right. See some thumbs up too. See, this is the thing with the technology. They just put that thumbs up in there recently. So think about that, and I'd be happy to send this out. And all you need to think about are 3 big problems they're having and how you impact those problems and help them solve them. Okay. So how do they currently deal with that problem? So the Board of Trade, how are they currently dealing with the problem? Well, they had all sorts of outbound events. So there was no solution. So the solution is we provide this information. What happens if they solve the problem? Think about it from your client's perspective. You help them solve that problem. You become the hero of the story. They've got the challenge. You help them solve it. You're the hero. And this is even working if you do something free. If it's something that's like, well, I really can't help the client now, but provide them with free content or free information, because the minute that does bounce back, you're going to be the one who's front and center, top of mind. And that's what it's all about, staying top of mind as much as you possibly can. All right. I always like to talk about it being 30% of, if you're solving a problem, people make decisions to gain something as opposed to, you know, it's the pain over the gain, or sorry, the pain over the gain. So whenever you're talking about problems, think about what the pain they're having is more than what they will get at the end of it. So here's a quick way to do it. I call it the 246 lead generation system that we use. It's trademarked for our company. Why 246? Well, if you actually do the math, there are 246 business days in the year. Somebody told me I had to change the name of this program to 247 because it's a leap year. But I'm going to keep it at 246 because it just sounds so much better. And 3 years out of 4, I'm right on it. So what's 246? Every day of the year you send out, every business day of the year, you send out 10 messages. They could be emails or they could be LinkedIn. In my case, probably 90% of them are LinkedIn because that's my best prospecting method. So if you think about that, that is 2,460. So almost 2,500 messages that you've sent out a year, 200 a month. Now here's a really scary number. And this comes from a lot of research from people like Salesforce and Sales Enablement and Selling Power magazine. The average salesperson reaches out to less than 200 prospects a year. Less than 200 prospects a year. So think about that. If you think, I work with companies sometimes like Sun Life, and Sun Life, their top performers in the early stages of their business are reaching out to thousands of people on an annual basis. That's why they become top performers. The ones that don't survive are the ones who are reaching out to a few people a week. So 10 messages a day, 2,460 messages a year. So if you could turn 20% of those message people, now this is going to be target market. This is not just blanket messages to anybody and everybody out there. This is 20% of that market could become prospects. Just prospects. We're not saying they're going to become customers. So that's still almost 500 good prospects a year. So you're still way ahead of everybody else. If 10% of those can become customers, you just added another 50 clients on an annual basis. 50 new customers. So what's that mean for your company if you added 50 customers? I'm going to give you some math here because, as I mentioned, most people don't even reach out to 200 in a year. So if you do that and your product is worth $1,000, you've just added $49,000 in sales to your business. Now, a lot of you sell products worth a lot more than that. So let's say it's a $2,500 product. You've increased your market by $122,000. And if you sell a $5,000 product, you've put $250,000 more into your revenue by reaching out to 10 messages, reaching out with 10 messages a day. So this is what the messaging system is, what we do and how you set this all up so you can do it. Now, 10 a day is nothing in terms of time. Everything I do is templated, so I can just cut and paste, cut and paste, cut and paste. And if it's a target market and it's a target industry, it means you're not wasting time typing up messages. I just bring it over. So the only thing I have to do is enter the person's name. So it's like, hi, Catherine, boom, rest of the message. Hi, Karen, boom. Hi, Crystal, boom. Hi, Julie, done. Probably do 10 in 5 minutes or less on a daily basis, right? If you want information on that, my email is robert@B2B Sales Connections, robert@B2B Sales Connections. More than happy to send you the information about that. All right, so how does it work? You send out an email or a LinkedIn connection request. That's your first step. So message number one is just a really simple message. I'll show you a couple of examples. Message number two becomes an insight document. So Edith could have a document that says 10 things you need to know about networking in the Ajax Pickering area. Something very simple that she sends it out and they go, oh, this is interesting, I'm going to read it. That also connects to an in-depth offer where now they have to give you an email address and their name. So you give them the insight document, they read the insight document, and then Edith has another one attached to it, says, if you would like information on the savings plans through the Board of Trade, download this document, but they have to give her name and their email to do it. It could be a study, it could be a report, it could be an ebook. On my company website, we think we have about 15 to 20 different downloadable offers now for people. And each one of them feeds into our system. So they read something and they download something. And if you need help on landing pages and stuff, I saw that Julie from Search Engine Optimization and Jennifer from Search Engine Optimization is on. So there's a company that's a member of the Board of Trade that does that sort of thing. So that's the first step. You create that message number one with an insight document. If they take that document and you've got their name and their email, you send them an email to follow up. From there, you go to a phone call, and that's when you qualify them as a lead or not a lead for your business. We're not selling anything. We're strictly determining interest, and we're talking about pain and outcomes. If, on the other hand, message number one doesn't trigger anything, you have a second message that goes out, and a third message that goes out, and a fourth message that goes out, and it continues. How long does it continue? It continues until the person unsubscribes, says no, or puts up their hand and said, yeah, that's interesting, I'd like to have a chat with you. So our drip marketing campaign for my company is 12 different messages in the cycle. So we will touch the person once, twice, 3 times within the first month, and then it goes on to an expanded going out there. Plus, we also have a newsletter. I think we're about 13,000 on our newsletter subscription. We also have a LinkedIn group, and our LinkedIn group is about 29,000 people right now. So those are all that we can market out to, and we control that information. So Andrea, any questions?
Let's see here. I'm paying attention to what you have to say. One question came out, and it's aren't you afraid that they'll remove you from their contact list if you send 10 messages out per day?
I don't send 10 messages out to them per day. I send 10 different people messages per day. But that is actually a really good point too, is am I afraid that people will block me, unsubscribe, or whatever like that? Do I know they do it? Of course I know they do it. Am I afraid they're going to do it? No, because We built up 13,000 people in our newsletter list, not concerned about the unsubscribes, because they're the ones who are putting up their hand and saying, you're not providing value, I'm not interested, you're not in my, it's that 40% that we talked about at the start who aren't interested. They're already fulfilling that, the notion of pulling themselves out. The ones who are interested are the ones who move forward with you. And here's the scary thing, and I'm glad you asked that question because I get asked this so much. Most people are concerned about the unsubscribes. They're concerned about the not interested. Who cares? They're the ones who are leaving. We want them to leave. It's the 9 or the 8 or 9 out of 10 who say, wow, I like that. I'm going to subscribe. So I'll come back to Edith. If somebody, when she talks to them, says right off the bat, well, you know what? I'm from Scarborough. I'm not interested. That's a good answer because she knows now she's not going to waste time chasing someone for a board of trade membership that's not interested. It's the person who goes, well, get back to me in a month, Edith, or, oh no, can you get back? They're the ones that can waste so much of your time. So love the unsubscribers because they're the ones who have self-said, not interested. But don't worry about them in your database. It's the same thing with LinkedIn. Can they block you? Of course they can. But the number of people that ever block my connection requests is probably 1 or 2 in 100. It's the 95 to 99 that say, yes, I'm interested in what you've got. That's my target market. Okay, so your first message, no selling. And this is the big mistake. We see that all the time. That's rule number 2, always remember rule number 1, no selling. The subject line has got to catch their interest. So you've got to use some key industry connection or something happening. So when I'm reaching out to people in the Durham region, my subject line has always got something to do with an important incident or an important activity happening in the Durham region or in their industry. Don't put hyperlinks, websites, or free offers in that first message. Keep it simply to a request to start the connection. And then I talk about using egoic labels. If you're not familiar with egoic labels, that's a label that you would apply to yourself. So if you sell products, business to consumers, and let's say your target market is stay-at-home moms, then your egoic label would be, attention moms, the kids are driving you crazy, boom. If you sell real estate, then the egoic label could be, looking to sell your house in the next 2 months, boom. If you're a lawyer, and I know for a fact lawyers right now are having a run on wills, people are getting their wills made up. And so you could have your message could be a free will kit or something like that. So it's think about what label your target market uses to say who they are, and then use that as your part of your market, part of your tagline or your subject line. Okay. So most people are struggling to create, or they all create this product-focused, company-focused stuff, and that's not what clients are looking for. It's insight into what they're doing. And I want to give you a little example here. Right. The number one thing your clients are looking for is that you can demonstrate you understand their job and their business. If you're talking to moms, you better understand what moms are going through right now. If you're talking to business professionals, you better be able to understand what business professionals are talking about right now. Second thing they're looking for is you're asking questions about their business. How do we understand things? We understand it by asking them questions. We've got to offer insights and ideas about their business and their industry. We've got to know how to communicate value about their business and industry. And then we get into the technical details of what you do. Now, here is the biggest single problem out there. 90% of the marketing messages you receive start with this. Hi, my name is Bob Weiss. I work for B2B Sales Connections. We've been in business for 25 years, and we do. And you have just got your prospects flatlining. They're not interested in that. So the first thing you've got to think about when you're talking to somebody is that you can demonstrate an interest and an understanding and a knowledge of their business and their industry. And we do that by using what we call insight documents. And I want to show you a perfect example. This is a woman named Amy Davies that I've worked with for about a year now. When Amy came on board, she does market research is her specialty. And she was sending out all sorts of emails and LinkedIn messages saying, you know, if you're interested in market research, I can help you. I'm a market research consultant. And this was constant messaging. So I worked with her and got her to look at what the problems were that companies involved in market research were having. And so she created this list of 20 things every successful company needs to know. I asked her for 5, she gave me 20. But that's the way Amy is. She's very, very thorough on these things. So she created this infographic, 20 things every successful company knows about market research. And it became her go-to second selection. So she'd send out some information and then offer this infographic. And she had hundreds of people were downloading the infographic on 20 things they need to know. Now, the second piece of it was, well, what does she do with that infographic now to really find out if it's a lead or not? So she created a small ebook, which was taking each one of those 20 points and expanding on it. So to get the ebook, you have to give your name and your email address, and you can download this email. Amy did the Human Resources Professional Association trade show downtown Toronto. And I was at that trade show, and her booth for 3 days straight was backed up with people, because what she did is she reached out to everybody in the Greater Toronto area in the human resources industry in the market research industry, said, I've got this information, sent it out to them. I'm going to be at the trade show, and they came by to see what she was talking about and to meet with her. The number of clients that brought into her was incredible, and it was by 3 simple little steps. Now, if she would have tried to buy advertising to do that and go after that 3% of the market that was looking right then and there, she would have never done it. But by going out to everyone in her market with a targeted piece, it was very, very successful. Andrew, I'm going to come back to you for a second. Just check on that, because a lot of people get asking about insight documents.
There's no questions at this point.
Have I ever overwhelmed them or?
One comment I will tell you was somebody mentioned, as a business owner, I'm getting bombarded with messages. So that's in reference to the previous questions.
Okay, we'll come back into that at the end, that's for sure. Okay. So here's one that I used myself. As I said, I'll send this across. It's a third message that goes out, and it just talks about a document I've got on how to validate your clients faster. I just say, if you want it, I've got it. And a lot of people sign up for this. It's them putting their hand up and moving forward. So a couple samples of LinkedIn messages as we go through that. This is an initial LinkedIn message that I use quite frequently. We know a lot of the same marketing people in the GTA. If you're looking to build your network, I hope we can connect. That's all it is. It's about 25 words. And I will use that. If it was a Board of Trade member, it would just say, I'm also a member of the Ajax Pickering Board of Trade. If you're looking to build your network with other members, I hope we can connect. And this is my first message to probably 90% of my market. It could be Board of Trade. It could be based on just the Durham region, or it could be based on something specific. And then when they do connect, I've got a second message that I send out. This is one that gets focused on owners of businesses that I know have salespeople. And I just send out a first email message about that. Are people being bombarded with this? I'm sending out 10 a day to 10 different people. They can unsubscribe. They can say, no, they're not interested. But I'll tell you, I track my opening rates, and this first email message, over 50% of your salespeople won't hit quota. This has about a 75% opening rate. And I can also track how many people opened it multiple times. And there are people out there that will open this 3, 4, and 5 times. Do they come back and say, hey, Bob, let's talk? A lot of them don't. But because I know they opened it, I now use that as a follow-up message. So I would send them. So if Nicole had opened this email 5 times and I knew it, I would send a message out to Nicole, and the second message with a link to something for her to actually download. Or if I know Nicole, I would actually phone her up and say, hey, Nicole, I sent you some information. I don't tell her I know she's opened it 5 times. I would say, hey, Nicole, I sent you some information. Did you happen to take a look at it? If she says yes, then I'm going to ask, so what sparked your interest in this message? And I get her to talk about why she thought this was interesting. And that leads into starting to move them into my process. Okay. Another one you could do, good to meet you virtually. I pick something noteworthy that's in their profile. I tell them I'm writing an article if it's about their industry, and ask to pick their brain for a minute. So there's all sorts of different things. I'll send you some samples of these messages. More than happy to share them out there. Okay. So
One
why
other
don't you?
question,
Yep,
one
go
more
ahead.
question, Bob. How do you know the note was opened?
There are a whole bunch of software packages out there. First of all, never use the read receipt request. Please don't do that. But there are packages out there. There's one from a company called hunter.io. Just Google hunter.io. They have a mail tracking software. It's an extension on your Google Chrome link. And every time I send an email out, it actually turns green when somebody opens it. And if you've got the premium version, it will tell you how many times they opened it up. It costs me like $9 a month, I think it is. There are free packages out there that will at least tell you when it's opened. Good question though, thanks a lot. So why didn't they open your message? Well, they didn't like it. It didn't provide value, and they were only interested in their problem. And that wasn't a problem that you didn't, you didn't address their problems, so they don't care about that. You didn't have a clear and compelling call to action. So my first message is just connect with me. My second message is here's something you might like. Get them to actually open it up, right? They weren't the right person. So were you dealing in a larger company, you may have to deal with 4 or 5 or 6 different people before you actually find the right one. I won't go into it, but I've got a client that was trying to get into Amazon, and some of you have heard this story. He made 43 phone calls to Amazon before he finally found the person who was able to make the decision on their product. 43 calls. But he kept going and going because nobody said, leave me alone, go away. They just all said, no, that's not my department. I'm not the right person. And he moved on. They didn't open your message because they didn't see any value, or they opened your message and didn't take an action because they didn't care. So by changing my messages and keeping a flow of messages, I'm trying to get them to go, yeah, I care. I want to talk to you. So what can you do in your own industry? What could you do right now? So let's say you're in leadership or strategy. Offer to facilitate some virtual sessions with some of their key players. Help them with their leadership challenges right now. Provide online assessments, provide interviewing. There's all sorts of different things you can do, but look for their challenges and how can you solve that challenge for them. If you're in finance, talk about what a client can do to reduce their debt now. If they're over leveraged, what can they do? If they have mortgage payments, rent payments, give them ideas on things that they can do to contain expenses, to avoid costs. I don't know if anybody else that's on this call is like me, but I think Costco is going to call up my wife and I in the next day or two and say, are you okay? We haven't seen you in 2 weeks. And let's face it, my credit card is sitting somewhere in my wallet. I haven't seen my wallet in 2 weeks because I'm not going out and doing anything right now. So what are you doing to help out? If you're in HR, how can you help a client understand how to keep their employees engaged and productive from home? If you're in sales and marketing, what are you doing there? Increase organic leads, save them on advertising costs, provide training for their salespeople. We're doing a ton of business right now on training because everybody's at home. So here's a few others, like, in your industry. So I'm going to throw this open right now, Andra. In your industry, a couple of people, give me ideas what you're doing to help your clients. So if you sell surgical masks right now, I'm sure you're working 24/7. If you're doing hand sanitizers, I'm sure you're working 24/7. If you're board of trade, you're looking for things to do to help your clients out there. So a couple ideas, what's happening in the field?
We've got any advice for mechanics, automotive repair shops?
Sure, yeah, because that's one that's really being hit. People aren't going in. The company that does my tires, instead of coming into them, they've actually said that they will send someone to my house and they will change my winter tires over to summer tires. They've said they'll come and do oil changes on my driveway if I want that done. So there's somebody else. They're reaching out to us. That's an auto mechanic. They can't do the big things, but let's face it, if people aren't driving, they're probably not needing the big things. But if you're charging $50 for replacing putting the winter tires over to summer tires. How many of those can you do? Send your team out to do it. Oil changes. There's a car detailing service got a hold of me last 2 or 3 days ago. Prime time, let's detail your car if you want. So think about what you can do to help that client. Now, if you're closed because you're forced to be closed, then that's a different story. But if you're forced to be closed, but you can still go to the clients, I'm not saying break the quarantine. That's the last thing I want you to do. But I also want you to look at what you can do to think about it. Anybody else, Andrew?
We have a comment that this person is helping, is helping people with, and they're coming in. Let me just scroll back up here.
Yeah.
I'm helping people run virtual conference events, and people
Great.
remember those that help them in these difficult times.
Sure. Who's that?
That was Sue Sutcliffe.
Oh, hey, there you go, Sue.
The next one is I'm watching webinars and gathering info to share with my clients, also researching ideas for them.
Become a curator of content. Sure.
Yes.
Take all of that. I mean, that's what the Board of Trade's doing right now, taking all the stuff that's being thrown at us and saying, let's put it all together and let you know as business owners what makes sense for you. Good, good.
We have remind us how the framing of your BD outreach, should see a tweak in this time. And I'm thinking it should be rephrased. Remind us how the framing of your BD outreach should see a tweak in this time when people. There's a question mark.
Okay, not quite sure.
Maybe if you could resend, please.
We'll ask that. We'll ask that one in the open session then.
This one final one. We are helping customers with remote access.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. My IT guy, excuse me, he's made sure that we've all got his number, and he's doing whatever he can to help if there's any IT problems. So, yes, there are some of us that aren't going to do anything, but then there's others where we can get out there and help clients, and let's try to do that. So a couple things. If you have a bricks and mortar place, make sure you're reassuring everyone that you're protecting their health. You're doing hand sanitizer, the staff's wearing masks, gloves, extra clothing, all those sorts of things. So back to the automotive guy, he said, we'll come to your house, we'll change the winter tires over. You don't touch anything, we don't touch anything. Great. I had to unlock the car, and when I was finished, they actually had a sanitizing wipe, and they wiped down the parking brake, which he touched with his foot, but hey, great stuff, and a few other things. Be prepared to pivot. We're switching to lots of Facebook, Instagram Live webinars. Make your employees a priority. What can you do to help them at home? I was talking to a teacher yesterday, and they were sending out computers to a whole bunch of students because they didn't have that, and they were actually sending out remote sticks that have internet connectivity. Right? Stay relative to your audience. Make sure that you're doing things that are going to help your audience out there. We started working on back burner projects. So one of my ideas, and since Sue's on the line, she's going to do this. I'm doing interviews with business experts in their fields, and then we're putting those together and putting them up on our website. So I'm interviewing Sue about dominating the digital. I think it's later on this week. But we're always looking for people to talk to that we can share and provide information. Focus on online services. What can you do online right now? Build up your social media. If you've been going, I haven't been doing any of those things, now's the time to do it. Optimize your digital space. Go on to search engine people's website. Look at all the freebies they've got on there to help you. Anything you can do to help your clients, that's what you want to be doing. Now, I want to give you an example of something that I did quite recently. I posted an article called 3 Ways to Quickly Increase Sales in Any Industry. And then I shared it out there. It had 2,031 views within the first 8 days of this going up. 17 people contacted me directly by email. A couple even phoned me. I had one lady who phoned me at 7 o'clock at night from California. So 2,000 views, 17 people contacted me. I had 5 phone meetings in the next 4 days with those people, and 3 of them turned into sales within that first week. Now, these were not people that 3 weeks ago I even knew existed, but because I pushed the information out there, kept it in front of people. People came back and started asking questions, and I ended up with 3 coaching clients just because of that. So taking the time to make sure that you're staying in front of people. You know, I could have very easily said, hey, I've got 2 weeks off. Thank goodness the weather's crappy, because it makes it easy for me to sit inside, right? Those beautiful days, like, oh, I'd like to be out, but no. So what can you push out there to make that happen? All right. So curate the information, upload your blogs, articles, videos, show your expertise in the industry, publish updates, you know, do things to help people find you. You want that 60% of the market that could be looking at any given time to just find you. And I always talk about, you know, our hyperlinks, send everything back to our website. Make sure you've got your social media links in there at all times. And follow a system. That's why I use my 246 system. Use templates. So you're just having everything standardized, creating a calendar. My business partner requires me to produce 2 things every single week that have to go up onto our blog or onto our YouTube channel. I'm not going to spend much time on that because I want to get to questions. I think we use, I like to say I do about 30 minutes a week is all I do on my lead generation. So it's not a lot of time. This is Julie's a client of mine, and she had written a post on LinkedIn, and she was averaging about 200, 300 views on any of her posts. And I helped her write her new post. So she made sure that she used the terminology that her target market was using. And so this is the thing that she wrote: 94% of nurse managers agree with schedulings affecting and all this sort of stuff. And then she used the right hashtags, hashtag healthcare, staffing solutions, hospitals. She went from getting 200 or 300 views. This thing got over 100,000 views in 10 days. I think the day I took the picture of it, 76,000. It was like 6 or 7 days in. 100,000 views. Now, the importance of that is, out of that 100,000, 200 people plus came back to her saying, this is interesting, tell me more, because she actually had a call to action in there. So it is very, very powerful at the right time in front of the right market. All right? So if you want more information on the 246 lead generation system, there's my email address up there. If you're not connected with me on LinkedIn already, please do so. And Andrea, let's open it up and see what people are asking or have to say.
Before I give, well, let's give in the order that things are coming in. There was another idea of what it is that they're doing, and Catherine, from organized by Catherine, said what everyone is now home. So she's giving, Catherine organizes your home is what she does. So she basically is giving people ideas on how to organize their home at this time. Excellent. So she can potentially go into their home, but she's providing information up it. So the question that we did not before, remind us how we should frame or reframe our business development outreach in these uncertain times for businesses and clients.
So the reframing is just, if you're used to being in front of clients and being able to go out and see them, it's what can you do now to interact with them without having to get in their face or walk through their front door. And so it's I'm more than happy to send out more information on that as we go along, for sure. Just send me an email and we'll do it.
This one's, it's, what advice would you provide to those businesses that are B2C versus B2B?
It's the same sort of thing. Except instead of sending out one-on-one messages, you can use Facebook, you can use Instagram, any of the social media platforms that you've got to keep promoting you're not promoting your product, but promoting what you do for your market. So it'll work the exact same way. You're just not going to send it out as much on LinkedIn, or you're not going to be sending out lead generating emails.
That's the last question I have.
Okay. So if you want to open it up, we've still got 5 or 10 minutes.
Any other questions?
Okay, well, I guess not.
Hi, Robert. Can you hear me?
I can. Who's that?
My name's Jessica. So I was the young lady that asked the question. I'm an operations manager we're a full service automotive garage. So we're Kenco's Car Care in Ajax.
Yeah.
One of the ways that we've been helping, we're kind of, making do with the COVID-19 is we're not currently allowing customers in our waiting room. So and our shuttle service that we normally have complimentary is also unavailable at the moment. So we're asking that customers either organize for someone from their household to follow them in another vehicle so that they can drop off the car, and we're getting them to put their keys in a baggie or an envelope and pop it through our drop slot to minimize our contact. Again, payment methods have been adjusted as well. Or we're having 2 members of our team go to their home and pick up the vehicle, again, with the least amount of contact, bring it back, get it serviced, and then drop it back off to the customer. Yeah. Now, one of the things that I'm looking to do, I've been playing around with MailChimp a little bit, and I'm looking to send an email essentially letting customers know, hey, you know what, we're open, we're essential, we have different options, we have payment plan options, we have our pickup and drop off services, and I've been kind of just holding off because I want to make sure kind of, the what you've reiterated, that it doesn't seem insensitive, but then at the same time, a lot of other mechanics are closing down, and we still do want to be able to take this opportunity. So any advice that you have in terms of information we can include in that email, or other ways that we might be able to kind of market ourselves?
Well, I think that you sounds like, you're really getting there. The fact you're using MailChimp, so you're going to your current customer base anyway, so they already know you. And all you're doing is you're just saying to them, look, folks, we are open and available. So if there's something that you need done, we're taking precautions to protect you and to protect our people, but we're still open to help you out. So there was a roofer the other day on a house next door to us, and it was the same sort of thing. Like, somebody called in, they had a leak because of the rain. They called around to 3 or 4 companies that didn't get back to them. And the message was actually, and this is what I loved it, because they called 3 or 4 roofing companies, and they just basically said, hi, thanks for calling ABC Roofing, leave a message and we'll get back to you. And that was all that happened. Where the company that they actually hired, it said, thank you for calling. We want to let you know we're still open for emergency services. Leave your message and we're going to get back to you within the next 45 minutes to an hour. And so they went with that company because they knew they were open. Where the others, some of them were 2 days later before they called back, and a couple called back and said, we're not doing anything. And a couple called back, like, oh yeah, we're open. So, it's making sure the message is right for the right time. So let your customers know that. I think it's a great idea.
Okay, and sorry, Robert, one quick secondary question too, if you have a moment. Do you have any advice for businesses that have collected emails, in the sense that, say, for example, a customer brings their vehicle in to get serviced, we take down their email as a method of communication. So if I'm forwarding over invoices or estimates, customers can have access to them. Yep. But I've never explicitly said, hey, are you comfortable if we send you promotional material, blah, blah, blah. So I have access to like 1,200 emails, customers that know us, are comfortable with us, but I've never actually done that first contact via email. So what would that kind of process look like to being able to utilize that email list for actual marketing?
Is Christine on the line from our legal department? I'll tell you what, send me an email privately and I'll give you an answer to that. Because you have to make sure you comply with CASL regulations for anti-spam. Yeah. But the big piece of it is they have given you their email address because you're communicating with them now. So personally, I go on expressed consent or implied consent. They've given it to you. They can quickly come back and say, we don't want to receive that, and unsubscribe in a minute flat. At this point in time, you're not sending them 25 spam messages. You're going to send them one message or maybe a couple over the next few weeks. That's not the kind of thing I worry about, but I'm not providing legal advice.
Of course. Okay, thank you very much for your time.
No problem. Anybody else that's got any ideas or thoughts?
That's it.
Excellent. All right, well, thank you very much, everybody. We try to keep these things to an hour. My information's up on the screen, Robert, B2B Sales Connections. Just to mention, I am still running my mastermind classes on the 246 lead generation program, as well as just any other training. And I do one-on-one coaching. So if anybody wants to just have a quick powwow with me, just send me an email. More than happy to. Thank you, Nicole. Thank you, Edith. Thank you, everyone at the Board of Trade, for all the help. Miss you guys.
Miss you too,
And,
Bob.
we're looking forward to getting out of this and getting back to the new normal as we go forward. Be safe, wash your hands, enjoy.
Take care,
Be well,
everyone.
Bob.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks, Bob.